லைவ்ல இருக்கு.
Danny, come here, come here. I need your help. Come fast. How do I change your name? How do I change your name, Daniela, to Nicholas? Zoom.
ఇదైతే డబ్బులు పెట్టకుండా ఆడుకోవచ్చు. వచ్చేది డబ్బులు పెట్టాలి.
ఇది డబ్బులు కాడేమన్నా
ఎలాగే
ఎవరు గెలిస్తే వాళ్ళకి 10 డబ్బులు పెట్టేసుకున్నామన్నా
10 రూపాయలు పెట్టుకుందాం.
Hello. Yes.
sir. One kar. नाम दे बसो भाई
Diwali la biscuit party pisha chido. Diwali la biscuit.
அதோட கீழ வருமா
Today, we have gathered here to thank God for guiding Caritas India CBR program over the last 25 years of its existence. We have gathered to reflect on the 25 years of work done by CBR in promoting inclusions of persons with disabilities in rural villages across northeastern states. Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you each and everyone for joining us for today's webinar. My colleague Ms. Namita Eka and I, Francis Angampu Maringmay, will moderate the sessions of the webinar on behalf of Caritas India CBR. Friends, as we are commencing the third regional webinar of Northeastern region as part of our ongoing Silver Jubilee celebrations, a celebration of our journey in promoting CBR and disability inclusion with specific focus on persons with disabilities in remote villages of Northeast India. The theme for today's webinar is promoting empowered, inclusive, and participating communities through CBR and SHG's initiatives. At the outset, I would also like to share with you the objectives and the proposed schedule for today's webinar. We have the welcome and briefing of the agenda, followed by Journey of Caritas India CBR in the Northeast region by Mr. Nicholas Guya Rebelo, Program Director, Caritas India CBR. Then we have Evolution of CBR as a sustainable and impactful strategy in the Northeast region by Mr. K. Kempaya, HOD Program and Training CBR. Testimonials from the Director of Prodigals Home, Nagaland, followed by Cultural Beat from Mizoram and Assam. Experience of promoting disability inclusion in the Northeast region by Ms. Sigrid, Program Coordinator, Northeast India Light for the World. Experience of promoting mental health programs in the Northeast region by Sarkar Mo Betani Society, Shillong, Meghalaya. Testimonial by SHG leader. Then we have cultural bit from Manipur. Then open reflections, questions and clarifications, suggestions to the way forward towards disability inclusion in Northeast region. Then we have reflection and feedback by the representative of Miserio, Germany, and Miss Sigrid from the Light for the World. Then we have the vote of thanks, then followed by national anthem.
Thank you, sir, for welcoming the participants and the other guests, for sharing the overview of the objectives and the schedule of today's webinar.
I now take this opportunity to invite Mr. Nicholas Guya Rebelo, Program Director, Caritas India CBR, who has been leading this CBR unit since its inception in 1996. Now I call upon Sir Nicholas to present to us the journey of our CBR over the last 25 years with specific reference to the Northeast India.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Jeshwar, you have to present.
So just give us a minute, sir.
Okay, so I'm presenting to you now the journey that CBR has walked through over the last 25 years, and with a little focus on what we did in the Northeast region. We were set up in the year 1996. Before that, Miserio had a workshop in Madanapalli, Andhra Pradesh. And I would say that that is where the seed was sown for CBR. Initially, we were called CBR Forum till very recently, just a year ago, our name changed. Till a year ago, we were called CBR Forum, and all of you know us by that name. And at this workshop in Andhra, it was determined that a new group is set up, CBR Forum, to take the disability agenda of Miserio forward in this country. And the outcome of this workshop that CBR Forum was born in 96, and its focus was the promotion of CBR in rural India. And this was seen as a program of Caritas India, with Caritas India as the legal holder. As I just said, it was subsequently named as CBR around a year ago. Now, CBR would not have realized all that it did throughout the country, and especially in the Northeast, without the partnership of Miserio, Light for the World, and Caritas Germany. And in the Northeast, we would speak more particularly of Miserio and Light for the World, who were our funding partners for all that we did in the Northeast. We also engaged with 64 resource persons across the country over the last 25 years. These resource persons helped us with project assessments, evaluations, they offered guidance, they took on special assignments, and this was done on a need basis, okay? So when required, we hired their services. They were not like regular employees of CBR. In the southern region, we had Sanchar and Bethany as our training centers. In the northeastern region, it was Sanchar and Bethany that served us to train all our partners in the Northeast. Over there in the Northeast, we worked with 61 NGO partners until September 2020. And without all these partners, the achievements that CBR saw would have been but a dream. Across India, we had 104 partners in the north, 134 in the south, and 61 in the northeast. Over the last 25 years in the northeastern region, CBR has brought about changes in the lives of 16,581 persons with disabilities, their families, their communities, across, you have to go to the previous slide, Jeshwar, across 57 locations. And in all of these programs, as they were CBR programs, interventions were made in health and rehab, education, livelihoods, social inclusion, and empowerment. Now, the following slides will give you some highlights on each of the separate areas: health, rehab, education, livelihood, etc. Let's have a look at that. In health and rehab in the northeastern region, our partners facilitated disability certificates and UDIDs. They facilitated corrective surgeries, therapies where required, aids and appliances, medication for persons with mental illness and those with seizure disorders, training of carers to work with persons with high support needs. Go back to the previous slide. I'll tell you when to change, Yeshua. Don't change before I tell you. Previous slide, please. Over there in the Northeast, they also sensitized health personnel and enabled PWDs and their families and communities to take the health issues forward. Now, this was done mainly by the DPOs, what we call today the self-help groups or PWDs. Next slide. The Northeast also saw the doling out of COVID-19 assistance to people in need. Our field teams were oriented on COVID-19 and the precautions that needed to be taken to avoid infection. They ensured that all interactions with the community are based on COVID-19 appropriate behavior and protocols. They reached out to persons with disabilities, their families, their communities, through awareness programs, sensitization programs, teaching them how to keep the community safe. Where required, they distributed food and hygiene kits, benefiting some 2,378 poor families. And this happened during the first and second wave of COVID. They also mobilized PWDs, their families, for vaccination, for the COVID vaccination. And as on date, we have on a catalog that around 7,685 PWDs have benefited from this particular process. Next slide. Let's have a look now at the educational scenario in the Northeast. CWDs were prepared and admitted in general schools. This happened across all project areas. After that, the CBR team followed up to ensure regular attendance at school and retention of PWDs because there was a lot of dropouts. So we made sure that they didn't drop out once they entered the system. They also facilitated scholarships, ensuring that CWDs, children with disabilities, got scholarships and that they could continue. This also served as an incentive to continue to be in school. Teachers and parents were oriented on how to take care of them, and they were sensitized on the mode of inclusive education. In addition to regular school and inclusion of children in regular schools, home-based education also formed a major part of our program. We mobilized educational volunteers, promoted child support groups as a support system to education. And the self-help groups were also involved in education as they were always there to take up any educational issues that needed catering to. Move on, next slide. In terms of livelihoods in the Northeastern region, our teams out there facilitated vocational and skill development training, provision of livelihood support for income generation activities. They also facilitated schemes and entitlements. They linked up groups of people to NRLM and other financial resources. They linked individuals as well as groups to schemes and entitlements of the government. And here again, the self-help group is doing all it can to take the livelihood agenda forward. Next slide. Let's have a look now at social inclusion in the Northeast. Before I go into the major changes, the need for social inclusion came up when we realized that many persons with disabilities were not part of the mainstream society. They were like left at home when the rest of the family members went for a wedding and stuff like that. So the major changes we saw down the line after working, just give me a moment, I have to plug in my computer. Okay, so the major changes we saw in the Northeast after promoting this aspect of social inclusion was that we saw many persons with disabilities getting married and starting families. We ensured that there was personal assistance for those in need. The participation of PWDs in family life, in community life, in community events was enhanced. We also enabled families and communities from their side to include PWDs in the decision-making processes, both at the level of the family and at the level of the community. And all the persons with disabilities in the Northeast now see themselves as taking part in the socio-cultural activities in the village. And our self-help group, as usual, ensures that social inclusion is coordinated and becomes a very vital agenda for them all. Next slide. Let's move on to empowerment of the persons with disabilities in the Northeast. Now that the self-help groups have started working and working far more, I would say, than before, we see that we have formed and strengthened self-help groups at various levels. We have built up the capacities of leaders. They have participated in campaigns like the World Environment Day, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the International Day of the Disabled, etc. Previous slide. We have helped self-help groups to address the issues faced by PWDs in their communities. And we have facilitated self-help groups to organize interface meetings with government officials. For me, this particular activity is the most important because this lends to the sustainability of the DPO process. Once the program stops, their interaction with government officials is what will help them to continue down the road into the future. And it is because of this interaction that a number of systemic changes were brought about in the Northeast. We see the self-help group as the prime mover, a group that networks with other similar groups to bring about change in their lives. Let's move on. And then you have the end result, local communities and self-help groups that are there to take the responsibility for the growth, the development of their members who have disabilities, as they do for every other member in the village, making use of all available resources and opportunities. Next slide. Some of the major changes, I leave you with this as I end my presentation. The major changes that we see in the lives of PWDs are groups of PWDs are visible, active, and in the forefront of change.
Agora kinian na.
Okay, they have enhanced participation and inclusion of PWDs is visible in all aspects of life. Systemic changes were brought about through the efforts of self-help groups of PWDs. And we have also observed change attitudes, not only in the PWDs, but more importantly in the family members, in the community, in the government officials, all of them having become more attentive to the needs and more aware of the potentials of the PWDs. Next slide. In the change scenario of FCRA amendments, CBR was forced to discontinue its partnership with its NGOs, who had worked very, very methodically, very faithfully, very ardently with us for the last, I would say, 23, 24 years. And I would like to add here that but for them, we would not have achieved so much in the Northeast. I would like to put on record at this moment my gratitude to all our partners in the Northeast. I'm proud of you guys, and I was happy to have the opportunity to work with you all for the good of persons with disabilities. But today, in the new scenario, we have been forced to take on direct implementation programs. Luckily, they are going on as well as before. Here and there, we still work with other collaborators and volunteers in the Northeast at field level. Next slide. Today, in this new scenario, we continue working with persons with disabilities through 18 direct intervention programs in the Northeast. Okay, so where we were working with NGOs before, we have 18 direct programs done by teams that are employed directly by CBR. And it is our endeavor to ensure that persons with disabilities are included in the daily life of the local community, of the family, and that their capacities are built to negotiate with all concerned, be it family, community, government, for the sake of their future, hoping that their future will be a vibrant one. Next. I end this short presentation of mine of the last 25 years, the kind of things we did in the Northeast, with my expression of gratitude, first of all to Miserio, Light for the World, Caritas Germany and CordAid, funding agencies that we had as our partners over the last 25 years, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of India and Caritas India, with whom these programs are taken forward, the members of the advisory committee who guide every step of the way, our NGO partners who were with us for the last 24 years, resource persons, training centers in the new region, current and past staff of CBR, and last but not the least, I sincerely thank our persons with disabilities themselves, their family members, their communities, and the government departments that worked so closely with us to make all of this possible. Thank you, and God bless you all. Take care.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the brief journey of CBR with focus on Northeastern region and for the insightful presentation. It is good to see how CBR has grown from being a service-oriented unit to people-oriented organization in promoting the empowerment, inclusion, and participation of persons with disabilities. We can firmly say that persons with disabilities in our project areas lead dignified lives and have becoming contributing members of the society.
I now invite Mr. K. Kampaya, HOD Program and Training, to make a presentation to us on how CBR evolved over the time as an impactful and a sustainable strategy in the Northeast region. Over to you, Sir Kampaya, for your presentation.
Off the video.
Thank you, Francis. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I take this opportunity to talk to you on how CBR emerged over the years as a strong and vibrant strategy in the Northeast region. Of course, you heard from Mr. Nicholas too, how CBR worked in the region in the past. However, in my presentation, I will focus on the major strides that we took over the years, making the strategy a stronger one. So going further, so when we started the program in the year 2000 with the support of Nigeria, and later in 2005, Light for the World started supporting our work. And the programs were implemented through local NGOs till 2020, as said by Mr. Nicholas. The initial focus was on promoting services to persons with disabilities. And I would like to draw your attention to the context in the initial years when we started the programs in the year 2000. Of course, the situation is not so great now, but there are many positive changes to say now. And you see, we work in the hilly terrain or lack of public transportation in the region. Limited communication facilities are there. Absence of state-sponsored schemes. Over-dependence on the central government and its schemes. Bad connectivity by road, rail, and air. Absence of community mobilization strategies in the region. law and order problem existed, particularly in Nagaland and Manipur. Lack of good and committed NGOs with the required legal status. So we need to understand the context. So that's why I'm specifying in what context we started the programs at that time. What is the situation now? We see lots of positive changes in the region with regard to the context. We see improved private and public transportation facilities in the region. There are improved connectivity through internet and mobile phone services now. Some states like Assam and Meghalaya introduced their own schemes like Arunodai in Assam, Basin in Meghalaya. Dependency on Government of India, of course, still continues for financial assistance and the schemes sponsored by them. Active NGOs supplementing and complementing government's work, better connectivity by road, rail, and air, and better law and order situation, and more or less peace exists in the region now. So what I would like to stress is that there is a change in the context and the environment is better to work in the region now. So though it is not perfect situation. So as you all know, we started with the standalone programs in the beginning, and slowly we started in 2009, the district level initiative with the 6 partners in West Khasi Hills. Out of 6, 5 remained with us till the end. We worked in the West Khasi Hills for almost 9 full years. Of course, the CBR matrix components were also introduced at that time, covering health, education, livelihood, social, and empowerment. Twin track approach also practiced, facilitating disability-specific services, as well as addressing the barriers in the community so that mainstream programs and schemes can be accessed equally by the PWDs. And with the ratification of ENCRPD, and the rights-based approach was also introduced in our programs. So we also had close interactions with our funding agencies, Nigeria, and in particular Light for the World, NGO collaborators, training centers, and the resource persons. There was regular exchange of ideas, views, and opinions. Light for the World and CBR both were open for new ideas and thinking. And it was a good learning experience working together in strengthening CBR and disability inclusion in the region. And in this slide, you can see the Light for the World team visiting the project areas. And here also you see some more pictures. And then we were having a plan. Actually, we were operating from Bangalore from the beginning, but we were thinking of starting a Guwahati office. But in 2015, Light for the World insisted that we start a program there, a regional office there, and it resulted in better coordination and developing linkages. And then we thought of strengthening early intervention service in 2018 because this need was observed through the implementation of the program. So as a first step, we started building capacities of the field teams. It was done with the help of Sanchar and Bethany Society in 2 batches in 18-19. Again in 2019-20, we repeated through a follow-up training program. Further capacities were built again in 2 batches, covering all the field teams. However, the staff turnover was witnessed both at Bethany level and also at the field level, leaving a gap in the process. And you see this early intervention training happening at our training center at Bethany. But what are the results of this training? Better knowledge, skills, and positive attitudes exist in the field teams to strengthen early intervention in the region. Number of children covered under early intervention services is slowly increasing, and community-based early intervention services got strengthened through the efforts made. And then we thought of conducting impact evaluations in the region. And these impact evaluations were conducted in 3 locations with the condition that these programs are phased out and there was a gap of 2 years. And after a gap of 2 years, we revisited to see what remains there. So what remained actually based on these exposed evaluations in 3 locations? Access to disability certificates and ID cards continued. Access to a range of entitlements from aids and appliances to scholarships to travel and escort allowances, loans for livelihoods, disability pensions, and so on. Access to health and rehabilitation facilities continued, like surgery, therapy, and medicines. Increased participation in education and work. Village and block level collectives existed. That is DPOs, nowadays we call them self-help groups. Sensitized communities and change in attitudes remained there. So what are the positive outcomes? A group of committed people, both the project staff and also the person with disabilities, have emerged as leaders. Lots of changes in the lives of person with disabilities happened, that is in all spheres of life. There is an increased awareness on disability, rehabilitation, and the rights, and linkages government and other actors for DPOs to access services and rights. So as a result, we prepared a plan of action to address the gaps identified through these ex-post evaluations. And this plan of action was adopted not only in the Northeast region, but throughout the country in all the regions by Caritas India. A learning document was also published jointly by Light for the World and CBR. Here you see a picture of in which all the participants of the workshop, in the learning workshop, you see right from Light for the World, training centers, partners, CBR, persons with disabilities, etc., etc. And then in the impact evaluation, it was identified that the gender aspects have to be addressed because there is a gap. It was found out that their participation in decision-making process at family and community level is rather weak. And there were no forums or the networks of women with disabilities in the region to promote their cause. And also they faced abuse and violence. Educational opportunities were limited, particularly for the girls and young women compared to boys and other people. Limited gender-based studies, women-specific programs and enumeration efforts were very weak in the region. So we thought of conducting a gender study, keeping the above background in mind, with these objectives. What are they? To understand the interactions of gender and disability and barriers faced by women with disabilities in particular, to map and analyze stakeholders delivering rights and justice, to assess the CBR program's successes and also the challenges, and also to collect the recommendations and prepare a plan of action to address the gaps. So in the study, if you see this slide, this is the status of women with disabilities when the gender study took place. And if you see education, almost equal enrollment in primary schools was seen, both boys and girls. But as they go to the high school and higher secondary and all that, there was a big dropout in case of the girls. Very few enrollments at college and university levels, and few enrollments in technical education. Coming to the health area, you see limited knowledge and focus on reproductive health, a limited access to aids and appliances, limited access to healthcare services. In the area of employment, very few earn an income, few opportunities for employment, limited support to microfinance, very few skill building opportunities or options. Income generation is not a priority, no property or land rights. Under the social inclusion, we saw limited participation in social functions, included out of pity, if at all. Few are married. If at all they are married to only persons with disabilities. Looked at as incapable of being good or complete mothers, and looked at as undesirable people. Under the empowerment, we saw that there was no program aimed to address specific needs of women with disabilities. No program and no specific services for them. Policies and programs do not put specific effort to include women with disabilities. Violence and abuse is not reported. They are hidden for various reasons. Very few are aware of and access the justice system. So, based on the status and the gaps identified, we prepared a plan of action to address the gaps. Not only that, we also started a pilot project on gender inclusion in the Northeast region. And we are also planning to come up with a learning document based on the gender study. And a gender component is being included in all the programs across the country now. So, CBR and emergencies response. You are all aware of COVID-19 emergency. And we try to put the systems in place for creating proper awareness. Interactions with the community are based on COVID appropriate protocols and behavior, distribution of food and hygiene kits. Of course, in some places, even financial mobilization was also done, besides the face masks, provision of special livelihood support, and also mobilized persons with disabilities and their family members for vaccination. And here you see some pictures of persons with disabilities and the communities receiving the food and hygiene kits. And then we went into emergency response. We also developed a DIDRR manual. Provision of livelihood support was given to persons with disabilities during COVID situation in particular. And disability inclusive task force committees were formed in the villages. And capacity building of teams and the NGO collaborators on DIDR is partly done, but in the future we're going to take up in a big way. And in conclusion, what I would like to say is, CBR is a dynamic and ever-changing subject. You ask 10 people what is CBR, 10 people will explain CBR in their own way. But that is the uniqueness of the concept itself. Need to change, adapt the strategy as we grow and as things develop at the local, national and international level. And we really need to think global and act local. So thank you for your patient listening. And this was mainly to focus what are the major strides that we took in the Northeast to really make CBR a strong, vibrant, sustainable, and an impactful strategy in the region. So thank you so much.
CBR has really evolved over the time as a dynamic strategy. Thank you, Campbell sir, for sharing on how CBR emerged as an impactful and sustainable strategy in the Northeast region.
Now we have a testimonial by Ms. Ella, Director of Prodigal's Home, Dimapur, Nagaland, one of our esteemed partners, on how our partnerships worked in promoting disability inclusion in the project area.
A very good afternoon to all of you on this very auspicious occasion of the Silver Jubilee celebration of the Caritas India CBR. I, on behalf of the Prodigal's Home family, would like to share a short journey of Prodigal's Home on the implementation of the CBR project in the district of Dimapur, Nagaland. The experience of Prodigal's Home. Prodigal's Home as an organization was totally ignorant about the issues of persons with disabilities, as the organization had never worked with the persons with disabilities prior to 2007. But in 2007, Prodigal's Home was approached and given an opportunity to learn about persons with disabilities issues and to implement a CBR project among persons with disabilities in Dimapur. Thus began a journey of learning, sharing, mobilization, involvement, and networking, and empowerment of persons with disabilities. A very slow journey, but a rewarding and worthwhile one. As an organization which was much in need of capacity building and improvement, Caritas India CBR invested much in building the organization towards effective implementation and management of the project for PWDs. As we look back, Prodigal's Home is grateful to Caritas India CBR for bringing us this far with their constant support and help. As partners, we have learned much from CBRF team as we constantly interact and communicate with them over the long years of partnership from 2007 to 2020. The resource person engaged by Caritas India CBR for helping the organization, the CBR team and persons with disabilities in particular were most amazing and helpful. It was indeed an enriching experience learning from all of them. The rich learning and experience continues to help and guide us even till today. Changes that is witnessed in the lives of persons with disabilities, families, and the communities. When the CBR work first started in the year 2007, it was the most difficult project as was experienced by our CBR team in the field. Denial, ignorance, misconception, stigma, discrimination, rejection, and lack of facilities for persons with disabilities were the greatest barriers faced by us. Isolation, exclusion, invisibility, lack of space, and lack of voice of persons with disabilities was everywhere. They were invisible. It was as if there were no persons with disabilities in the families and in the community. They were rarely acknowledged, and in many situations, persons with disabilities themselves isolated themselves. As we look back today, so much has changed, though there are still many areas that need improvement. If not for the CBR project initiated in Dimapur, perhaps the scenario of persons with disabilities in Nagaland would not be what it is today. With the formation of the DPO and Nagaland State Disability Forum, the persons with disabilities became more visible. They are acknowledged and their voices are heard. They are actively engaged with the government in the affairs and issues of persons with disabilities in the state. Though NSDF was not as active as it should have been, the very fact of forming this body was instrumental in bringing much desired changes at all levels. The status of persons with disabilities inclusion today in the project area. Exclusion and isolation was where the persons with disabilities were when the project started in 2007. Even in their own homes, many were either ignored, isolated, or excluded. Also, negligence or overprotective behavior of the family was a common practice, which really did not help the persons with disabilities in any way at all. In the locality, in the churches, schools, all community gatherings rarely saw inclusion of persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities themselves stayed away, and also others never bothered to include them. But now, much has changed. In whatever level possible, inclusion is happening. This inclusion is not confined only to the project area, but is happening even at the district and the state level through visibility and active engagement of the Nagaland State Disability Forum. Few takeaways from the implementation of the Caritas India CBR project in the district of Dimapur, Nagaland. 1. Realization of the importance of capacity building of the team, the DPOs, and the organization as a whole. Point 2. Mandatory involvement of the chief functionary applicant in certain crucial aspects of the project. Point 3. Rights-based approach of empowerment of persons with disabilities through formation of DPOs, a major shift from traditional approach of charity and welfare approach. Point 4. Community-based approach involving and empowering the local community for long-term sustainability. As we look back, our hearts are filled with gratitude for the rich experience and learning and the humble impact that we could create in the lives of persons with disabilities, their families and communities through our partnership with the Caritas India CBR. In spite of all the challenges and problems faced, amidst our failures and shortcomings along the way, opportunities and achievements were always there, showing the way ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Ella, for giving your testimonial and for sharing how the initiative started by CICBR and Prodigal's Home has brought sustainable changes in the lives of persons with disabilities in the project area.
We are now happy to showcase a cultural performance from our CICBR field areas of Assam and Manipur. This program was fully conceptualized and produced by our CI field team and cultural team from Tengakat block Assam and Wangoi block of Manipur. We take pride in announcing that these participants belong to our rural CI-CBR project in Assam and Manipur states. We are sure that you will enjoy the performance and appreciate. Kindly relax and watch.
মুকই দেখা খিরখিরাই গোল ময়না জানোই দেখা খিরখিরাই গোল ময়না জানোই পেতলই ভাত নোজোয়া পেতলই ভাত নোজোয়া ওই কিনু হাহিতিরে মহিলা ওই নুবুজা খাথর হল ময়না জানোই নুবুজা খাথর হল ময়না জানোই নুকুয়া কই মনৰ কথা নুকুয়া কই মনৰে কথা ওই কিনু সাওনিৰে সালাম কই দেখা খিৰখিৰাই গল ময়না জানোই দেখা খিৰখিৰাই গল ময়না জানোই পেটলৈ ভাত নোজোৱা পেটলৈ ভাত নোজোৱা
I'm sure you all must have enjoyed the beautiful dance performed by Ms. Naurem Santibala and Archana Saikia, who are both persons with hearing impairment. It proves that disability is not a barrier, but given the opportunity, they can excel. We take this opportunity to wish Ms. Naurim and Ms. Archana all the best for their future endeavors.
I now invite Ms. Sigrid, Program Coordinator, Northeast India, Light for the World, to share the experiences of Light for the World on promoting disability inclusion in the Northeast region. I call upon Ms. Sigrid to make her presentation, please.
Thank you very much, Francis. A warm welcome to everyone. And just checking, Jasper, are you sharing my slides or do you want me to share them from my side?
You can go ahead and share it.
Okay, just one moment, please.
You want us to share, ma'am?
No, that's fine. I think you should be able to see it by now. Am I correct?
Yes, we could.
Okay. It's my utmost honor today to share a little bit about our work in disability inclusion in the Northeast over the past many years and the successful collaboration we had together with Caritas India CBR, but also all other partners we worked with. Let me start by giving a brief overview of who we are for those of you that might not be so familiar with our work. Light for the World is an international organization specializing in inclusive development, and we champion accessible eye care and support inclusive education and basic living conditions conducive to a self-determined life so that persons with disabilities can participate with equal rights in society. And our vision is truly similar to the vision of CICBR, to have an inclusive society for all, where no one is left behind and all persons participate equally in the cultural, social, political, and economic environment. Over the years, we have been working with a lot of partners in the Northeast. Having listed here are those that we work directly with. There are, of course, a number of partners that we have participated through Caritas India's CBR program, where we were supporting indirectly the NGO partners. But going through the list real quick, obviously Caritas India CBR is one of our partners, the Franciscan Clares Society, Bethany Society being a long-standing partner, Bosco Reach Out, the Brothers of St. Gabriel, Cherry Blossom Society, Ferrando Speech and Hearing Center, the Ramakrishna Mission Hospital, Shishu Saroti, the Society for the Welfare of the Disabled, Sri Sankaradeva Natralaya, Maneda, as well as Mission 2020. Our work has started in the Northeast in 2004, and up to date, we are working in various fields. It's community-based rehabilitation, inclusive education, mainstreaming disability, disability rights, eye health, and economic empowerment. And over all those years, we have supported more than 100 projects. Now, looking at the different spheres we work in, we've touched base a lot on community-based rehabilitation already through the presentations of Sir Nicholas and Sir Kempaya. But the focus here for us is really the identification of people or persons with disabilities, addressing the needs of the individual through rehabilitation, through assistive devices, the access to schemes, but also strengthening the disability movements, be it self-help groups, the organizations of persons with disabilities and their advocacy planning, but also peer-to-peer psychosocial support. And of course, also access to education and livelihood. And in the picture here, you see a young girl with her mother learning to walk on a small rollator. We've also been working in the field of inclusive education. We're proud that we were one of the partners in the Regional Action on Inclusive Education, or as many of you might have come to know, the RAISE project. Over 5 years, we've been working together with 15 NGOs, capacity building NGOs and teachers on inclusive education, working on advocacy and awareness raising, supporting government schools, SSA schools, to become disability inclusive. I've been working on the dissemination of good practices. There have been fantastic manuals being developed that are being shared. And we've also been working on developing special schools into resource centers for other organizations, but also for local authorities. When it comes to mainstreaming disability, our main partner has been Bethany Society's Mainstreaming Disability Unit. And here we were looking not only within the partner organizations and external stakeholders like governments or flagship programs, but also within Bethany Society and its programs to make them disability inclusive. And Bethany Society was also part of the development and the testing of the Roads to Inclusion tool. On the topic of disability rights, we're working in close collaboration with Shishu Sarothi's Disability Law Unit, where the focus is around the provision of legal aid to secure justice for persons with disabilities, to create awareness about disability rights and build capacities of self-help groups. And there has been a link already between CBR and the DLU on strengthening DPOs. And of course, there's also a lot of advocacy work being done and accessibility audits for barrier-free public spaces. In the area of eye health, we have been working on outreach camps and school screenings, information, education, and communication, but also training of teachers, health workers, and volunteers. We've been really focusing on building up and strengthening the referral systems and have successfully phased out our eye health program in 2019 after having developed action plans to improve eye care services in Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. Economic empowerment was another pillar of our work. And there has been an employment initiative that we have been supporting in collaboration with Shishu Sarothi. There's an inclusive natural farming project. We've been working on vocational training, and a lot of our work in economic empowerment has actually been embedded in the work in the CBR projects. What have we achieved, or what have our partners achieved in the past years? We've built up a very comprehensive CBR program that has continuously evolved and supported over 6,000 persons with disabilities at peak per year. The RAISE project has also been awarded with the Zero Project Award for Best Practice and has developed 15 resource centers of inclusive education training manuals, and 72 SSA schools were reached. We have developed action plans to improve quality eye care services in 2 states. But we've also been successful to have legal interventions to secure justice for persons with disabilities by Shishu Sarothi's Disability Law Unit. And we've also been able, during a presentation of good practice examples at the 4th Asia Pacific CBID conference in Mongolia, and at the first CBR World Congress in Agra, where CBR has presented the fantastic work that has been done in collaboration with the partners. And there's a little teaser from our side. Since Light for the World is phasing out its programs by the end of 2023, we're actually working on documenting the learnings and the accomplishments we have achieved since 2004 in Northeast India as part of what we call Operation Gold Nuggets. It's our end of program evaluation that we're preparing for already, and that we'll be happy to share in a publication early, let's say mid-2023, more realistically. Looking at the achievements 2020, we have reached, through our partners in Northeast India, a total of 14,320 persons with and without disabilities, 6,651 male, which represents about 46% of the beneficiaries, and 7,669 female, which represents about 54%. What are the lessons learned? I think, like many players in the development sector, of course, we've also been reminded that system and attitudinal changes take time, and that it's essential that partners and projects are linked together to create synergies and multiply the impact. And we've really been working on fostering the collaboration among the different partners we have supported in the past years. We also felt that it's very important to build structures for project and program sustainability from the start and avoid the dependency of partners on us as a funding agency. And something that really came out strongly during the COVID pandemic is that well-established OPDs are driving forces in their communities and for the betterment of all persons with disabilities. Looking at the road ahead, or what do we see as important points to take for the work in the Northeast? We strongly believe that building interlinkages and synergies of project and programs is important, as well as applying a mainstreaming approach wherever possible. So let's not make it an add-on, but make it disability inclusive right from the start in your organizations, in the programs that you develop. We feel that it's important to act on increased donor attention on cross-cutting themes like gender, like climate action, to really start thinking to address these topics. And CICBR has done so as part of the gender inclusion pilot that we're doing right now. It's also important to strengthen the local funding base through partnerships with governments, with foundations and CSR initiatives to mitigate the implications of the new FCRA norms, which I know have not been very easy to deal with in the past year. And I think many are still learning what is expected. We also think that's ever more important to build networks and alliances and become part of international networks to really stay abreast of global developments and build a pool of expertise. And for each individual organization, we think it's important to build a case. Often we do good, but we don't talk about it. It's time for you to take stock and to really talk about the great achievements that you have brought upon. We also feel, as the development sector is shifting, that a human-centered design is ever more important, and capacitating self-advocates to ensure sustainability beyond the interventions. And last but not least, and it ties a little bit in with building a case, it's important to be aware of the increased importance of monitoring, evaluation, and learning to demonstrate the impact. And with that, I'm thanking you for your attention and wish you all the best as we progress through this wonderful Jubilee and webinar. And if there are questions, we can surely address them at the later stage. Thank you very much.
It was an impressive presentation by Ms. Sigrid. We thank you for enlightening us by sharing the experience in promoting disability inclusion in the Northeast India. We would like to acknowledge the contribution made by Light for the World and its team for their dedication, commitment, and extending every possible technical and financial support to ensure that all the programs, and in particular CBR programs, are a great success in this region. Thank you, ma'am. We are overwhelmed by your continued support.
Mental health is one of the major issues in the Northeast region. Bethany Society, with the support of Hans Foundation, has promoted mental health in the region through some of our past NGO partners. Now we request Mr. Karmo Noronho to throw some light on how the mental health issues were addressed in the region. Over to you, Sir Karmo, for your presentation.
Thank you, Francis, and a very good afternoon to everybody. And once again, felicitations to CBR Forum. And on behalf of Bethany Society, we send you greetings. And I really wish to thank deeply our collaboration with CBR Forum, with Light for the World, etc. I mean, whatever we have achieved is due to the opportunities that you have provided us and how our grassroots people have use these opportunities to promote. Okay. I have only 5 minutes, so I don't want to go through the whole thing. All I want to say is that, and this is not to pat Bethany on the back. One of the reasons this program continues is because of networks work and collaborations work. And what we did was that mental health, we realized 10 years ago, was a very important issue. And unless it becomes a part of the community-based work, we are going to have a huge challenge on our heads. Okay, so the Hans Foundation, we are truly grateful to them, and they recognized the value of networks. And if it wasn't for Caritas India CBR Forum and the networks that we had created through Bethany Society, Light for the World, CBM, Jan Vikas Samiti, with the CBR programs. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Next slide. So these are the 4 issues we took in hand. You know, that is just not looking at mental health, it's looking at overall development, you know. So next slide, please. Next slide. So this is a quick thing of, please look at it. In overnight, because of the NGOs that had been trained through CBR Forum, we were able to reach 707 villages, 15 blocks, and 7 districts across Northeast India, across Meghalaya. This is actually a funder's delight, because you're not funding one organization, you're funding a cause. And in one shot, you were able to do that. Next slide, please. Next slide. And these are the partners. I mean, most of them are CBR Forum partners or CBM partners. We were able to get these 10 organizations. So it looks very simple. If each of them have 70 villages in CBR, you reach out to 700 villages. All you need to do is to an extra amount of training for your field staff on how to identify, link professional services and hospitals, and continue your CBR work. You know, so it really makes it easy, and that's why it's so important that sustainability to continue networks is so important once the project is over, and that's how we've done it. Okay, next. Next slide. And so this is it. If you look at this, it's really just capacity building and 40 CBR workers across our CBR programs, bringing in the whole concept of community mental health. We had training programs from Bangalore, Ashatip Guwahati, Suncare, etc. and so on. Next slide, please. And, next slide, please. So these are the, the regular monthly clinics. Next slide, please. And support for medication. Next slide, please. Next. As on 31st March, these are just patients, but we have nearly 3,000 persons with mental health issues across Meghalaya, which is really reaching out. And during the COVID times, because of FC issues for the last year, we have had no funding. But the community and the organizations of disabled people are reaching out, collecting medication, making sure that those that require medications, those that have regular mental health issues, are getting their medication. So as of now, nobody has been left behind, except the staff who have not been paid salaries for about a year. But we do hope the whole thing will be settled very, very soon. We have been able to sort out all issues and the program will continue. Next, please. And these are the total numbers, Next, please. Next. So that's it, that is the total number of villages, etc. All I want to say to CI CBR Forum and to all the funders, thank you very much. The networks for sustainability, village level capacity development and strong local organizations, getting them to link with government programs is key. And my earnest request to IAB and to Light for the World is, do an evaluation 5 years after you leave, and then you realize the impact of your program. And and especially to the Hans Foundation for recognizing that this is a credible network. And I want to say that in 2020, the Bethany Society, not the Bethany, the Hans Foundation Northeast Meghalaya, they recognized it as one of their best projects. And one of our field workers was given a handsome monetary support, and including one person with mental health who is now running his own livelihood program also. So thank you very, very much. I don't want to go to the rest of the program. All I want to reiterate again is networks work, and the more we take time to strengthen networks and to build capacity at the local level, you are on the road to sustainability. Thank you, God bless, and thank you once again.
Mr. Carmo, Director of Bethany Society, has placed before us how addressed the issue of mental health in the region. We place on record our highest appreciation to Mr. Carmo and his team for the efforts made by them in promoting mental health in the region. Thank you, sir.
Let us all listen to the testimony of our SHG member, Mr. Muatem Su, who is from our field area under Mokokchung district of Nagaland, on how CBR interventions has enabled them to understand about their rights, roles, and responsibilities in collectively addressing them, and inclusion of persons with disabilities in the project area.
Hello everyone, my name is Madamse, District SHG member from Mokokchung, Nagaland. Before the intervention of CICBR program, I was just at home thinking that I am of no value as I am disabled. But after the intervention of CICBR program, I came to know the true value of me. because CBR program has helped me to stand for my rights and also to be sociable, and today people know me and the works we do for we the PWDs in the district. Secondly, CBR program has promoted inclusion of PWDs, and we can see that in practical because PWDs are included district monetary committee, church leaders, village councils, etc. And with that, people have come to know more about us, and as a result, there is a special Sunday celebrated for PWDs in our district in the month of December. Not only that, after passing out the program, we the TBO leaders are keeping ourselves more active by identifying different issues and solving them. We are also maintaining good lineage with different stakeholders in the community, and as a result, we get their support and help when needed. Lastly, we are trying to carry forward the inclusion process by identifying different stakeholders and individuals to support our district SHG and also to continue being an active member for the welfare of we the PWDs. We also would like to thank CICBR and our founder. Thank you all.
We are grateful to our SHG leader, Morten Stu, for giving us an insight on the issues they faced in the beginning and how CBR program has enabled them to become aware and urge for their rights and entitlements.
Now let us witness a cultural dance performance from a CBR field area under Changtongya Block, Mokokchung District and Serchi Block, Mizoram.
We are sure that you all enjoyed the performance and it was a feast to watch them perform. Thanks and appreciation to our CI field staff for conceptualizing the idea with support from community and produced by our CI field and cultural team from Changtongya and Serchip blocks of Nagaland and Mizoram. We also thank our communication team for editing the video appropriately.
Going forward, we have a session on open reflection to determine the way forward towards disability inclusion in the Northeast region. Now I invite Mr. Dominic George, Assistant Program Lead, Caritas India CBR, to animate this session.
A very good evening to all of you. I just wanted to take you through the way forward towards disability inclusion in the Northeast region. So it's an open reflection. I want the participation of all the participants who are present here. I want to hear from you also some of the points that you raise that we want to really take it forward in our work for another 5 to 10 years. So looking at the present status, we have heard it from Mr. Nicholas Rebello, Program Director of CBR. We also saw the presentation made by Mr. Kempaya and the testimonials of Ms. Yella and Ms. Mautam Su. And we also heard from the experience of promoting mental health programs in the Northeast region by Mr. Carmo Norona from Bethany Society. And most importantly, the experience of promoting disability inclusion in the Northeast region by Ms. Sigrid, Program Coordinator, Northeast India by LFTW. These presentations and the reflections depicted the way we have traveled down the lane for the past 25 years in promoting the inclusion of persons with disabilities in their community in the Northeast region. So this is the present status that we have. So also I want to ask you the reflections of the group in the light of the above. Based on the presentations and the reflection that we had today, I request the participants to raise questions or seek clarifications, share your thoughts and make suggestions on the way forward, covering the reach, strategies unfollowed, and the impact of our initiatives. So first and foremost, I would like to invite the participants to ask any questions to the presenters, all those who presented earlier, like Ms. Sigrid or Mr. Carmo, or some of the testimonies that you have witnessed. So it's open to the floor. Anyone can ask questions to anyone who are present this afternoon. Open to you all. Anyone can share or ask questions. It's an interactive session that we have today. Now. Or you want to put up any reflections or suggestions, most welcome.
Good afternoon, Judge sir, and everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sudhindra here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is one reflection has to be done with regard to SHGs and their structures in Northeast to be strengthened. We have tried a lot to bring them to this level, and to go to next level from there, from Northeast, SHGs should take part in national level activities equally with others. That has to be reflected, I think, from all our states, like 6 states we are working in now. We have 4 district level SHGs and we have many block level SHGs also there. So, and also including gender representation, women with disabilities into the groups and forming their forums. So that is, we have some challenges also there. We agree with, we should agree with that. So to travel and bringing in person with severe disabilities, all those things. In spite of that, we have to, I think we have to reflect on ensuring the participation of women with disability and severe, person with eye support needs participation in SHGs, and including them at the, we are already included, but we have to ensure the participation of Northeast SHG leaders. I think that has to be reflected a bit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Second thing I wanted to put forward here is like networking with the government system, especially with our department for DDRCs and DEICs has to be strengthened, which is a very sustainable resource that we can utilize for our person with disabilities to rehabilitate and include in the community. Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is my 2 points.
Yes, sir.
Karma has raised his hands.
Yeah, good. Just a few suggestions.
Yeah.
One is if CBR want to take this forward, Basic Needs India from Bangalore, I think wherever they are looking for partners for promoting mental health in the Northeast. So if CBR Forum and anybody from the Northeast, they need to expand. They've been wanting to partner with us, but at the moment we are not in a position. So I think you would need to look at that. That's a good partnership. But I think if if Caritas India CBR Forum want to take it up at a larger level, our present project finishes in 2023. If we are not so much interested in going outside Meghalaya, but if across the Northeast, if you want to use your network, the Hans Foundation is a very, very good partner. So I wanted to suggest that. The third point I wanted to say is following up on what Sudhendra said, yes, we need to look at disability specific interventions of governments. But please, since we are promoting inclusion, please look at systems in the different things of health, education, livelihoods, because the government of India presently is very much open to inclusion, and they are actually looking at impact and resources to put into inclusion in their mainstream programs. For example, presently they have just launched Sankalp, which is a skill-based program where they are looking for specific programs which will include persons with disability in skill development. And this is at the district level of each government. So I think it's very, very important for us to keep our eyes and ears open at government programs, both at the state and at the central level, which will lead to further training, to further inclusion. And finally, I would again request that I know it could be a bit expensive to get our CBR workers certified under the RCI CBID program, because then you are recognized by the government, and possibility of grassroots CBR workers, persons with disability, to get employment in the government system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for very good suggestions that you have made. In fact, for the lead that you have given us with regard to basic needs and Hans Foundations, we will look forward and we take it, your suggestions as valuable. And we also look forward to meeting them as soon as possible. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, this is Kempaya, if I may come in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so as we know, the history that we have been working with NGOs all through this, all these 25 years. Now that the FCRA is not allowing us to subgrant and work with NGOs in a project mode, but we have touched the many NGOs in the past in the region, and revisit them and try to convince them and say that, how Light for the World worked with Bethany Society to make Bethany Society an inclusive organization. And, if we can, we are in the process of developing training materials for NGOs on disability mainstreaming. And we should make an attempt to reach out to all the NGOs which we came across in the past and try to give this training input on mainstream disability. And then you see, without much resources, so many NGOs and the grassroots will become inclusive truly. And this will have a better impact in the region rather than only going by the project mode or, this kind of, standalone or CBR programs as such. So we are open for it, and free training we can offer to the NGOs, NGO collaborators for the past about, I think, I don't remember the numbers, at least a minimum of 25 NGOs we had reached in the past. So we can always go back to them and see how they can really mainstream within their programs and within their organizations and truly become inclusive. That will have a large impact, I feel. But NGOs should not think in a project mode of working only. They have to go beyond and see broadly. And we have to bring it to the notice now how this inclusion can bring or add value to their own existence. So that can be an attractive thing. And Mr. Karmo is there. He can also help us in identifying more NGOs who are interested in undergoing this kind of training. And we'll be with them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for the good suggestion.
Sir, I would like to come in here.
Yes, Francis. Yes, sir.
I think now, as an add-on to what Sir Kempaya have said, I would like to add, like, immediately we can reach out to those NGO partners whom we have just phased out. Because that is the starting point where we have to, and from then on, we try to identify our old partners, I would say, to come back and we can collectively address, the issues of this mainstreaming, including them in their programs. So immediate, what I feel is if we can immediately, reconnect back ourselves with the partners whom we have just phased out due to this FCRA. That could be the immediate priority, sir.
Yeah, I agree with you and endorse it, Francis.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's a good suggestion that we can, first step, we can take it forward with the NGOs who just phased out with us from us. Is there any others?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Related to this partners, connecting back to partners, now we can take it like overall northeast region, north region, even south region, everywhere, so that we will have we'll have them in this one track, so that we will get some cooperation and we can also extend some cooperation to them. Maybe not maybe in the financial this one because of the CRA, but other form and ways we can work with them. So that is one thing, to sustain this systems and structures.
Yes, yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
And one more thing, yes, sir. One more thing, reflections can be done on the by recruiting. We have already discussed, but still I want to just plug it out for the other information also. We are going to have some CEs for SHG programs in future. So in that, focusing on person with disability who is able to travel and perform the job, and also priority will be given to women. So in that way, we have to get ready ourselves before this March. Means we have to start now itself to identify and guide them, all those things. These things has to be started, and in future also we need to see that more and more person with disabilities come into the staff structure or consultant structure, whatever CEs, PE, BES, and they can be role models in the community itself.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay. I think almost all the suggestions are very valuable, and it can give us a kind of light for us, the way forward. Based on your reflections and suggestions, I would like to continue with the reflection. During our new region, that is North region and Southern regional webinars, the following points emerged for our way forward. Use of various apps and technology to monitor the work of CBR in rural India. Also, there were suggestions to work with the state and the union government to influence and enable them to promote CBR in the rural area, just like some of the suggestions that came up during this webinar too. And focus on district level initiative model of promoting CBR. And finally, mapping of similar NGOs, organizations practicing CBR, learn from each other and take forward the work of promoting inclusion of persons with disabilities in a bigger way. So it also gives another suggestion that we need to network with similar NGOs and organizations in promoting inclusion of persons with disability. So based on the reflections that we have, I feel there is some opportunities at our hand, like program expansion in the region and make the progress community-led, and making the programs more inclusive. Example, promoting gender equality. That is one of the very biggest area, also a challenging one for us, the way ahead in Northeast India, also in other regions of India. Promoting the movement of self-help groups and focus on addressing the barriers for accessing streaming services, programs, and schemes. Use of better sustainable strategies, example, strengthening community level groups. So the existence of RPD Act 2016 and UN CRPD Act and SHGs, and documenting the impact created. So these are some of the opportunities in our hand. Based on our opportunities also, there are some challenges, like due to the change of FCRA Act, we are into this direct implementation. Both it is an opportunity as well as a challenge for us, the way forward. Limited funding opportunities, this is another important challenge that is before us. Raising local funds, putting in place a local network of donors. The presentation of Ms. Sigrid, it is already mentioned the road ahead, that local fund, creating local funding base is one of the way forward or road ahead. And promoting gender equality, enhancing leadership roles of women with disabilities, making self-help groups self-reliant and more proactive, influencing the government to practice and promote CBR in rural India. So just like Mr. Karmo said, that we need to influence the government also. It's a challenge, but it can be an opportunity to take forward in a better way, linking our grassroots works to the national and international laws. Apart from the challenges, this is what we see the way forward. To reach out to 10,000 persons with disabilities by 2025 in the Northeast region, promoting gender equality, enabling a community-led process, promoting self-help groups and their self-reliant federations, enhancing our efforts of local resource mobilization, collaboration with the government, other like-minded organizations, enhancing the impact and sustainable process. So these are the very key points that I would note the way forward for CBR for another 5 years from now on. Apart from some of the suggestions given by Ms. Sigrid and Mr. Karmo and others during this webinar, we take it forward in a better way, and we take all the challenges that come before us. And finally, with the one word, in whatever the challenges and the opportunities that we have going forward, we commit ourselves fully for persons with a disability the years to come. Thank you. Thank you one and all for present.
Thank you, sir, for conducting this open session and stimulating a few ideas in determining the way forward for CICBR.
Thank you.
Now I would like to call upon Ms. Sigrid of Light for the World to give a reflection and feedback on our journey and suggest the way forward in terms of reaching out to more persons with disabilities, in bringing about systemic changes resulting in benefiting the large number of persons with disabilities in the Northeast region. Over to you, Ms. Sigrid.
Ms. Sigrid, it's a kind of open reflection that we are looking forward from you based on this webinar, that what you have noted down, you can tell us so that we can take it forward what you are saying. Yeah.
Sure. You caught me a bit by surprise, but
yes, I just wanted
to. Sure. I think overall, I mean, the journey or the road that has been traveled is already quite well established, and especially now in this new setup, as some of you have mentioned, I think it's very important that you continue maintaining the networks you have, even though, you know, really stepping away from thinking on a project-based collaboration, but really how can you collaborate in your partnerships for the disability inclusion? And I think everyone has it on their agenda in different ways. And so continuing exchanging resources, exchanging expertise will be crucial on the way forward. Sorry, just trying to gather my thoughts on all of this. I think as you have rightfully said, it will become ever more important to really look at continuously strengthening the self-help groups, or OPDs, as they are called in the international context, because they are the ones that will ensure the sustainability of the projects. And that naturally also comes with a lot of capacity development, also for some of the more grassroots organizations, that even though your collaboration might not be in the same formal setup as in such where you can transfer funds between different organizations, but that this partnership in terms of capacity development and knowledge sharing continues beyond. Georgie, are there any other specific points that you want me to touch base on in these reflections, or questions you and the group might have to ponder on?
Yeah, with regard to the gender study that we had, and we are also promoting with it's a new venture that we have started, focusing on ourselves with the gender. Also, there is a way forward with regard to promoting gender. We have started initially in Northeast with the help of Light for the World. We are also looking forward to promote the same strategy in other regions of India. So anything that you want to say on this regard, ma'am?
I think when it comes to gender, it's definitely something that is in the focus of donor agencies around the world. It's something that Light for the World is also experiencing very strongly, and we have recently established actually a gender focus point. And it's something that should actually naturally be in us to ensure that there's equal participation in our societies, be it in projects, be it at work. But we all know that the painful truth is that there is no equal representation. And I think, putting an official label to it and saying we're working on gender inclusion is one thing, but it's really about living it. In our work, do we have an equal balance in our teams? When we notice gender inequalities or, women and girls not having the same opportunities, are we addressing it, or are we accepting it as a cultural norm and not fighting it? And I think it's important to really have the topic of gender inclusion as something to focus on. But I think it's something that affects each and everyone's life. And if I'm very honest, although we think the situation might be much better in Austria, we are far away from gender equality in Austria as anywhere else in the world. And it's a topic that we have to start, and that is a long journey. We can't expect perceptions to change. I mean, we've talked about how long it takes to change attitudes on persons with disabilities. So be patient on this journey, but ask yourself every single day in your work, are you doing everything you can to ensure gender equality?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. It's I would also accept that it should come naturally from us. It's not that we label it in a gender program. So we try to promote this. We have it, but in a more steady way that we will promote this. Yeah, thank you so much.
I have a small question to Ms. Sigrid, if I can ask.
I hope I have an answer. Sure, go ahead.
I know Light for the World is trying to phase out from India, and beyond our phasing out, how would you like to be in touch with India and with your partners, and what is your way forward? Is there any thinking at LFW level going on? What is the roadmap for you?
There is, but there is no final decision being taken on what this involvement will be. So we have been receiving the feedback from partners that especially our role in, giving access to international resources and the information and expertise we've been sharing has been incredibly valuable for our partners. So we are internally discussing about different ways on how can we maybe set up a newsletter system or something to continue being in touch with the partners. This is not finalized yet. The other thing, and Carmo, I think, mentioned it earlier, was around evaluation and doing program evaluation. Yes, while we're looking at one right now and having that completed by 2023, actually there are discussions that we'll do another one in 3 to 5 years after we phased out. So there might be further engagement to really see what lasts after we have phased out. This phase out plan, as some of the partners are involved in it, is a fluid thing that is growing and where we are learning a lot as well. So I don't have a definite answer as to what it will look like exactly, but it is under discussion on our side, how we can continue staying engaged. And of course, even if, this network of us staying engaged or that newsletter doesn't materialize, our website will always exist. There are always a lot of resources on our website. So even if we're not physically as close, there is always information available. And that's for sure. And when it comes to training and capacity development, I honestly don't have an answer yet as to will there still be opportunities and how do we go about it.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure.
Over to you, Francis.
We wholeheartedly thank Ms. Sigrid from Light for the World for their appreciation and the suggested way forward. We look forward to receiving your continued support and guidance in reaching out many more persons with disabilities, their families, and the communities. Now I invite Mr. Francis to propose the vote of thanks.
Before we continue with the vote of thanks, I would like to request all of us to kindly switch on your video for a photo session of this webinar. So kindly all of us who are all there, to kindly switch on your video for a photo session to put on record our webinar of the notice. Thank you. Amita, can you just find out whether the photo has been taken?
Is it done, Namita?
Sir George, can you find out whether photo has been taken?
Yes, I think Ms. Namita can confirm.
Sir, just 1 minute, sir. Just one more minute.
Okay.
Yes.
Over to you, Francis, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. We thank one and all for joining and supporting us. We gratefully acknowledge the passion, dedication, and commitment towards the empowerment, inclusion, and in enhancing the participation of persons with disabilities. With your prayers and good wishes, we will continue to enhance the lives and fulfill the dreams and aspirations of persons with disability. Thank you once again, and may the Almighty bless us all. We thank the management and staff of Caritas India, and in particular, Father Polly Varghese, Executive Director of Caritas India, for the support and guidance. We thank our donor organizations, Miserio, Germany, Light for the World, Austria, and Caritas, Germany. We would like to mention that without their ideas and support, promotion of CBR would not have been possible. And we are here today because of their consistent funding support, which enabled us to take our dreams forward. We thank Mr. Nicholas Guya Rebelo, for sharing the journey of Caritas India CBR in reaching out to persons with disabilities in the Northeast region. We thank Mr. Kempaya for sharing the presentation on evolution of CBR as an impactful and sustainable strategy. We thank Ms. Ella for sharing on how the introduction of CBR in their organization has resulted in bringing the much needed changes in the lives of persons with disabilities in Nagaland. We thank Ms. Sigrid for sharing her impactful presentation on how Light for the World promoted disability inclusion in the Northeast region through their much needed interventions. We thank Mr. Carmo for sharing with us the issue of mental health, which is being addressed in the region by bringing about the much required respite to the lives of people with mental illness. We thank Mr. Muatemsu for sharing his experience and commitment to continue his work for the cause of persons with disabilities in the state of Nagaland. We thank our NGO collaborators, resource persons, and training centers for their technical and hand-holding support in successfully accomplishing the results as envisaged. We thank the boys and girls for the colorful performance and showing off their skills and talent. We thank Mr. Dominic George for reflecting with us on the way forward for Caritas India CBR in promoting the cause of disability in the region. We thank all our colleagues who have contributed to this webinar directly or indirectly. We particularly thank our communication team for their technical support. We once again thank one and all for joining and supporting us. Jai Hind. Please stand for the national anthem.
Jana Gana Mana Adhinayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Banga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Jala Jaladi Taranga Tab Shubha Naame Jagi Tab Shubha Ashish Mangi Gahe Tab Jaya Gatha Jana Gana Mangala Dayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Jaya He Jaya He Jaya He Jaya 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 He.
Thank you all for being part of this wonderful session for the Northeast webinar. Thank you.